I look at the forest and I'm amazed by the bulk of production. I wonder, who plowed there? Who fertilized there? Who sprayed chemicals there? And yet it produces more than we can dream.
Conventional agriculture is what supports billions of people on this earth. And it's not sustainable. In 2050, I think most of the soil in the world would be degraded or in poor condition. We can pump all this fertilizer into the soil and suddenly we can produce a huge amount of food, but we didn't know the price to pay.
I was fortunate I had a grandfather in the house. I learned a lot of things from him and his era, and a lot of things from my father from his era. My grandfather was more a guy for composting. My father was more the kind of guy that started working with new fertilizers and things. In my 20s then, I was the biggest cut rose grower in the Western Cape, very proudly fertilizing and spraying chemical cocktails to keep the roses perfect for every customer. One of my friends was hospitalized for using all these crazy poisons. I reckon, oh, something's not right here. They're not so harmless after all. That made me look into different ways of doing things.
I saw firsthand how much food was being wasted in our community, and I knew with the right system in place how much impact we could create. I couldn't sit by and do nothing when I knew how to solve it. We're actually feeding people, feeding livestock, capturing the manure from that livestock, bringing it back to our facility, feeding it to worms that bioconverts it into growing mediums and soil amendments that then goes back to grow more food. Complete circular system. A few years ago, I connected with the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. I saw how much food could be recovered for people. And so we came together really quickly on the idea of a facility that would serve the needs of everything and everyone. And that was really the genesis of ReFeed.
In British Columbia alone, there's $500 million worth of food wasted every month. That's $6 billion of food a year is wasted. And we have hungry kids in schools.
I grew up in a home where, we didn't have a lot of money. And food to me was a sign of love. So to see all this food go to waste, was very personal.
The amount of food that we've got from ReFeed, the amount of food that we've actually distributed to people. I've seen the excitement on people's faces when I'm saying, here's a case of grapes. Never mind a bag of grapes. Here's a case of grapes for you and your family that was heading to landfill. With ReFeed, Stuart's created just a perfect solution. Food for human consumption first, then for livestock, and then the worm farm. And literally we can sit and say, and hold our heads high and say, we have zero waste.
Before the industrialization agriculture, most farmers rely on amendment coming from animals. It was, living more in harmony with the soil, right?
So a lot of what I learned as a kid from my grandfather started to happen, started to be needed. And I liked it. It felt good. It feels good to do things naturally.
One teaspoon of soil is billions of, bacteria, fungus, of nematode, of algae. It's a very complex system. They all interact with each other and interact with the plants.
When people lose the respect for earth and consider the soil to be dirt and treat it that way, then they kill it. When they realize that what they're walking on is sacred, then they think twice about putting anything poisonous into it.
So we've created the first 3-level worm farm in the world. And what it's doing is creating this soil microbiology with the worms being our workers. And they're bioconverting the produce that we bring in, as well as the manure that we recover from our dairy farm partners. So our focus is really getting back to healing soil, getting life back in the soil, and then growing food that is healthy for future generations. Having kids in my life has given me perspective. I realize now more than ever, their future is in question. Instead of living in the moment, we need to think about how we set up their future for success. And we need to do that on a global scale. We have to make big changes. We have to use innovation, our knowledge, our will. And we need everyone at the table so that we can change our broken food system. And we're talking about food banks, technology, advocacy, data, soil science, and farming. Without it all, we really wouldn't be able to bring this together and focus on community and impact.
With an abundance of food, we cannot ignore the waste. We cannot ignore the hunger. We cannot ignore our soil. Taking care of our food system is an important part of taking care of our earth.